Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. On today's episode, we're going to interview David Morgan. He is a world-renowned silver analyst and the founder of the Morgan Report. He routinely appears on news outlets like CNBC, Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, MSNBC, and many other channels. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel for free. You can also like, comment, and follow us. We're going to have a lot of great celebrity interviews coming up, so make sure to click on that notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload a new episode. Also, please make sure to post a link to today's show on all your social media to help spread the word. Now, let's say hello to David Morgan. Hello, David. Welcome to the John Ark Show. How are you today, sir?
John, I am well. Yourself?
Oh, really good. Pleased to have you on the show. David, in all your years of working as an analyst in the silver industry, have you ever seen the stock market, the real estate market, the commodities market in a more dysfunctional condition?
Have not. And
Yeah.
John, I think it's a direct relationship between the amount of what I call funny money, Fed printing, and how much it distorts the markets. And really, everyone knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. I mean, the mainstream press keeps telling us it's wonderful. Look at this big number. Well, I could show you a photograph I have in my file of a starving billionaire. It's a gentleman in Zimbabwe that's showing his $1 trillion bills, and yet he's not got enough to eat. So it's not a function of how many zeros are behind it anymore, although I'm not saying we're going to hyperinflation or anything close to Zimbabwe. What I am putting an exclamation point on is, look, these markets are so distorted, it's really difficult to find out when anything's really worth it.
Yeah. During very challenging times in the past, investors would begin adding gold and silver to their portfolios, just in case things got even stranger. Do you think that people did that during the health crisis over the last 2 years, or did they direct their funds elsewhere?
Days gone by, yes, it was a precious metals. That was really your only exit. But now we've got the cryptocurrency market. And actually, there's a study done recently, John, and it showed that many people took those checks and put them into the cryptocurrency market. Yes, some did go into gold and silver, but really not that many. Fortunately or not, most of the people that are millennial age, and I have two daughters that are more enamored with, let's say, the high-tech crypto world than they are with the old school gold and silver markets.
So from August of 2020 through today, the price of silver it cycled up and down between the price of, say, 22 and 28. It's remained in that same price range for most of the recent challenges. I would have thought the price of silver would have risen more than it did over the last 24 months. Why do you think it hasn't gone higher?
Well, the silver and gold markets are actually derivatives markets. So the price is set basically for a contract or a paper form, and the asset underlies it. So, as anyone on your audience, and I know you know this, John, but just uh, for a brief detour, a derivative is based on some asset. Gold's the asset, and then they make a derivative of it, which represents something close to it. So, with the amount of paper that can be printed, like the Fed does for the U.S. dollar, the same thing can be done in the gold and silver markets, and that basically has the management ability of the exchange to keep the price pretty much wherever they want it within a certain boundary. I agree, silver should be much higher. We had an all-time record investment for silver, both institutions and retail in 2020, and it did move the market out of that 8-year back and forth, and it moved it to almost 30, but it's been stuck there ever since, or below 30 ever since.
So, do you find it interesting that while inflation has been dramatically affecting the prices of almost everything, food, gas, clothing, cars, so many things, that it hasn't really impacted the gold and the silver market very much? Do you find that to be an anomaly, or is there some explanation for it other than total market manipulation?
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked, I touched on the reason, but yeah, I find it fascinating. Even all markets that are manipulated eventually break free. And there's a lot of pressure in both the precious metals to break free. And yet, as you stated, it hasn't yet. But I want to add the word yet. I think they're running out of ammunition. And I do believe that any institutional buying going forward, it will be so overwhelming to what the physical ability to control the markets are. We will see much higher prices in paper terms.
Now, do you buy physical silver yourself? And if so, do you take possession of it or do you just purchase silver stocks?
I do both. I mean, what I've taught from day one is if you're going to be a metals investor, you should start with the real metal first. And I'm not a dealer, although I can help people that are in the whale category if they're interested in buying in like the 100K or up. They should probably get a hold of me through my website because I can help them get very close to to wholesale. Having said that, yes, I start with the real metal first and then I move on to the equities. Equities are where you get really good leverage to the market, both up and down, I will say, because if gold moves, let's say, 20%, a good gold stock will move triple that amount, but also on the way down. So we're very selective. We've done very well, but it is a buy and hold, kind of a long-term perspective. Most of the short-term stuff, which we do occasionally, you got to be timed perfectly. It's pretty hard to do that consistently.
What do you think silver will do if the Russians move into Ukraine or the Chinese move against Taiwan?
Excellent question, John. And I don't like saying this, but look, I like to base all my thinking on fact as much as possible. And it's a fact that silver is a metal of war. So anything that causes more activity in that department will cause more demand for the silver market. The one place that an analyst like me that gets almost anything ever written about silver, even from these high price services, and absorbs it, and then I do my work, the only place you really can't get any data at all is what is the military use of silver, and it's rather substantial, but no one publishes it.
Hmm. So I'm going to name some investments for you, and I want you to tell me if you think they will do better over the next 12 months or worse than silver, and if so, why you think the way you do. The first one is, how would you compare the future of Bitcoin to the future of silver over the next year or two?
Next year or two, I would say there's a friend of mine, John Perez. He has a saying that when Bitcoin dies, silver flies. It's pretty clear that the crypto market and Bitcoin's the stalwart of the entire sector is probably going to go down. Whether it's going to stay down for 2 years or not, it's hard to determine, but I'll stick with it. I think silver will outperform Bitcoin at least over the next year, if not perhaps two.
And if there is a catastrophic collapse of the stock market over the next year or so, under those circumstances, which do you believe will perform better, Bitcoin or silver?
Silver for sure. Gold's the most negatively correlated asset to the stock market. Everyone talks about it being negatively correlated to the dollar, which is mostly true, but the best correlation to protect yourself against a stock market crash is gold. Silver is gold on steroids in an up market. So if we see gold do really well in a stock market crash, silver will do even better on a percentage basis.
Now, the next one is real estate. How do you think real estate investments will compare to silver investments over the next 12 months or so?
Got to give you a caveat, John. Please forgive me, but it depends location. Right. There'll be some rural properties and people that are probably very wealthy that want to get out of, let's say, congested areas and into rural properties and have the money to pay almost any price. But with that exclusion, I think that the real estate market, especially on the commercial side and stuff with a heavy loan against it, is not going to do as well as the silver market.
The last one is NFTs. What do you think of the NFT market, and how do you think they're going to perform relative to silver going forward?
You know, it's a new market. It's got a lot of enthusiasm, like anything that I think is a fad. And David Smith, that writes for me, he's more enamored with the whole crypto space than I am, and I'm the one that has the name on the publication. I think once the Beanie Baby phase wears off and people realize what they're really buying, I think silver will outperform it.
Do you believe in NFTs, or do you think the whole notion of selling digital pictures is a little sketchy?
You know, I'm still making up my mind, John. I like to give a reasoned opinion. I haven't developed one totally, but as far as I've dove in, I don't think there's a lot to it. There will be some that will, especially the ones that are the digital representations of something physical, and only one person has that one minted coin from the David Morgan mint, and that has a value of X, and all the derivatives of that, the NFTs, the digital representation, will be like a lithograph. The original has a very high price, but the lithograph is much lower. I think that's where it's going to go.
So The rumor is that China is allegedly purchasing much more gold each year than they are publicly reporting. Do you have any idea if they're also purchasing huge quantities of silver? And if so, what would your guess be as to how much?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we know that they're purchasing a great deal of silver because of what the net exports are. There used to be a net exporter of silver about a decade, 12 years ago, of about 100 million ounces a year. That changed about the same time frame, 12 years ago or so, and they became a net importer of 100 million ounces a year. Whether they're stacking it on the shelves as a monetary asset or not, I really doubt it. I think every ounce that they get through their own mining activity and what they import goes into the high-tech sector, the iPhone as one example.
Yeah. Approximately how much physical silver do you think American consumers need each year? And how much does American industry require for its products? What would you guess?
Yeah, there's actually, I can't break it up. I can break it out in my head a little bit. There used to be a per capita base use to silver in one of the silver studies I buy every year. And it was, again, probably about a decade ago because this service quit putting that in. But on a per capita basis, 10 years ago, it was 1/10 of an ounce per person. And if you think about it, that's not that much silver, but you're thinking of, what the American has. And it's, of course, it's an iPhone, an iPad, a laptop, membrane switch on their microwave oven, touch screen on their new refrigerator and their new washing machine, and on it goes. What's in their car? More electronics, which means more silver. So I'd say it's probably higher than that now. And then what does industry use? Industry on the aggregate worldwide is 50% of the market. Well, the US is kind of the highest per capita. It's not the richest country in the world necessarily. There are smaller ones that per capita. But as far as a big country, we're still, quote unquote, the wealthiest if you count the funny money. So my point being is that the US is probably greater than 50% of the market, would be my guess, but I don't have it broken out.
At last count, there were more than 15,000 cryptocurrencies out there, many of them completely unknown and doing very little in the market. Now there's a cryptocurrency called Silver Token, which supposedly is linked to direct ownership of silver. Are you familiar with it? And if so, what do you think of silver tokens?
Well, first of all, full disclosure, I was right pretty much at the founding of the Lode, which is a gold and silver based token. At first, it was silver only. We've digitized gold as well. It's ag.lode, LODE.1 if you're interested. I think that the precious metals backed cryptos actually have a place in this crypto sphere. And I think going years out, like 3, 4, maybe before that, they will become the stable coins. Because when you think about it, an ounce of gold has the same mass anywhere in the universe. That's as stable as you can get. What surrounds it is what does the currency fluctuations in different countries do versus that solid mass. So I think that there'll be an adoption phase that the millennials will catch on to why real money is important. And there'll be some people that understand it will start being early adopters. So I'm actually pretty high on the whole concept. That particular one, John, you got me, my friend. Okay. There's something there that I haven't heard of yet, but there will be more. And I want one more comment you didn't ask. A lot of these 1,500 units that are out there, I think you're going to see 90% of them wiped off the map in the next year or two, just like the tech wreck.
Now, you said you were involved with a coin that was linked to gold or silver, was it?
It started as silver only, and now it's to both. There's called AGX. It's the atomic element for silver, AG with an X behind it, and there's AU, which is the atomic symbol, the periodic symbol for gold, AU, and an X behind it. They're both tokenized real precious metals that you could trade with a wallet, buy stuff with your wallet, or you could take possession of them if you want.
You can actually cash out the gold component of it?
Yes, you can.
And then you guys ship it?
Yes.
Interesting. And is it fractionalized? Can you purchase a fraction of an ounce?
Yeah, it's for everyone. I mean, I'm a big advocate of honest markets for everybody. Mm-hmm. Silver, it's in the gram category. So a gram of silver is a very low unit value. It's only a few dollars. And then we do it in grains in gold. So can we print out a gram of silver? The answer is yes. With the 3D printer, you can actually put that small amount of silver on a piece of paper. We are like most of these, we have a threshold. In other words, if you don't have like 20 ounces, I think it's 100 ounces now, it may be lower. If you don't have 100 ounces to collect, you're not going to get it. So if you got 50 ounces, you're going to have to take payment in fiat. Mm-hmm. But if you're at the threshold, and as I said, that will come lower as we work through, you can. And that's true of a lot of these silver and gold savings programs, John. We're not doing anything different. It's not economically efficient to take a half an ounce of silver and mail it to somebody. It costs more to mail it than it's worth. So
now, can your coin be purchased or traded on exchanges like Coinbase or some of the others, or is it just directly through your company?
Was just through our company, and there is one, and I forget the name of it. Forgive me, I'm not the tech guy, but there is one exchange, and we will be on others. We have a unique wallet that's actually been more difficult to produce than some of the other ones that go through the exchanges, but we are hooking up with a lot of exchanges. And I think a year from now, if we have another interview, John, which I'd love to do, you will probably know. You're going to have friends telling you, hey, you interviewed that guy that did the load stuff. That's pretty cool.
Mm. So for the average investor wanting to stock up on physical silver, what do you think makes most sense for the novice? Is it acquiring American Silver Eagles or something like bars or bullion? For that crowd, what do you think makes most sense?
Years ago, I wrote a little deal called The 10 Rules of Silver Investing. I was asked by a publisher in the United Kingdom. He got experts in different areas. Obviously, he chose me for silver. And in that, I said, you should buy the most silver for the money. So I'm not that concerned. Silver is silver as long as it's 999 fine. So I think most people should probably start with just, coins to start with because they're low denominations and you can not have to make a decision on a 100-ounce bar. But you can go from coins to bars. Now, there are people that are concerned about, confiscation, which I do not worry about. But if they are, you could stick with just American minted coins. They are not going to confiscate their own legal tender. That's not going to happen. So, it's kind of to each their own. I advocate the most silver you can get for the money. But if you're uncomfortable with that, then make your own decision.
What do you believe are the most reputable websites online for the purchase of physical silver? Are there one or two companies out there that you have some faith in that you believe actually ship the silver they claim they're going to ship?
Well, almost all online dealers are.
Yeah.
And if I leave one out, I'm going to be in trouble.
All
so
right.
I would say contact me privately, especially if you are buying in size that can help get you toward the wholesale level rather than retail level. But almost all of them that are online that have been there for more than, say, 5 years or so are reputable. There's different spreads, and there are people that, have been taken by, dealers. The biggest problem with the precious metals arena really isn't not getting your shipment. It's people that are, let's say, rookies that don't understand the difference between a bullion product and a quote unquote rare coin product. Mm. And the biggest problem in the industry is that the semi-numismatic coins are sold for people that are really just bullion coins, but they command like a 40% premium for the unsophisticated investor. And all of a sudden they're buying these coins that maybe are rare as far as how many were minted, but they have nothing more than melt value. And I've heard that story over and over again, John, through my years.
So we keep hearing rumors of significant counterfeit gold and silver coins and bullion making their way onto the market, especially through New York. Have you heard that? Does this pose a concern for you, or is it too nominal to even to worry about?
Well, it's obviously I would worry about it, but not overly. I mean, for one thing, some of the Chinese bars were determined to be tungsten. So that would probably be on an international level. I mean, those could have come out of a major refinery, perhaps. I don't want to badmouth anyone, but it was a fact. So it's my contention, and I've heard very few others say this. Now, once the Chinese determined that, they have a new standard. They're not taking 100-ounce gold bars or 400-ounce standard gold bar. They're re-refining their gold into kilo bars. And I think the reason for that no one else will state, and again, it's conjecture on my part, is that very reason, John. They want to make sure that all their inventory is pure gold, and they're taking those big bars and making them into smaller kilo bars. As far as how much goes on, again, it's a lot of the counterfeit goes into the coin market. It's a lot easier if you're going to counterfeit gold to take a 1881 rare coin and make it, mint it and put it in a plastic holder and then say this is a rare coin of, $35,000 value that's only got, $2,000 worth of melt value for gold. That's one area you got to be very careful of. And it's not pervasive. It's not throughout the industry, but it does happen. And the other one, as you said, there are phony bars out there. In the 80s, when silver was on such a rocket ship, a lot of Engelhard bars were at the end filled with lead. And of course, they weighed about the right amount, not exactly, if you know what to check for. So it does concern me. I'm not that worried about it. I don't know how much of the market it is. In fact, it gave me an assignment. I got to determine what the percentage of counterfeit is. I'm sure someone's probably done a study and has a number. I would guess it's a pretty low number, like 2%, 1%. But you want to be careful. And the main place to get your metal is, someone you can walk in over the counter at your city, if you've got a big enough city that has precious metals dealer, or off of one of the internet sites. The place you're going to have the most problem would be a pawn shop or eBay. So I would steer away from those.
What do you have more faith in going forward when it comes to preserving your wealth, the stock market or the silver market?
Well, they're cyclical. So there's times when you're really better off buying stocks, maybe holding them for 10 years. Like we go to, Japan, if you went from 1970 to 1980, you did great. And if you flipped into gold, you did better. I got the wrong dates. But the idea is you could go back and forth between the two. Gold for a decade, stocks for a decade, gold for a decade, that kind of thing. But going forward, I do think we're going to be much better off with precious metals than we are with the stock market.
So the big short investor, Michael Burry, sold most of his U.S. stocks recently, as have some other apex investors. What do you make of this?
Well, I love him. I identified with a few of the characters in the movie. I didn't read the book.
It's such a great movie, isn't it?
It's fantastic. And I think he's just ahead of the curve again. One of the things that really bothered me about the movie, was, I should say the movie itself, what bothered me about what took place was, even though they made these bets and then Burry said, I want to have insurance in case you fail. Of course, Goldman Sachs just laughing him out of the room and said, no, I'm serious. I want that insurance policy on you guys. And they made it for him. But when everything started going his way, and the market didn't reflect that, when you had countrywide funding going down the toilet, and they should have got a repricing immediately on their position, they did not. Just re-emphasize just how doggone corrupt the whole system is, and especially the Wall Streeters. On aggregate, there's some honest people there, I'm certain of it. But on balance, no. And that was frustrating because I've seen the same kind of thing in the silver market, where we've got really good momentum, lots of physical buying, and we'll get this big downdraft and silver gets just crushed. And yet I call up the refiners, I call up the wholesale market, I call up the fund managers. I said, why are you guys selling? We're not selling any physical. It's all on paper.
So lastly, I've got a hypothetical question for you. If you knew with 100% certainty that the market was going to collapse and drop by 75% in precisely 7 days, what would you do now, and what would you do the day after the big collapse?
Well, I'd buy as many out-of-the-money options as I possibly could. And once those paid off, assuming, like I just said, the Michael Burry scenario, that the counterparty could pay me, I would take those funds and I'd probably corner the silver market, John. I'd just get rid of this nonsense and take as much physical as I could.
So before we go, is there anything you would like to promote?
No, just the website. I mean, I do have a publication that's a paid service. So that's an aside. You can go to the website, themorganreport.com. Don't forget themorganreport.com. Get on our free email list. I do a lot for the public education and sophisticated investors and not so sophisticated investors. The about page is my bio. You can skip that. Go down to the bottom and watch the movie the Four Horsemen film. I was in that. It's not about me, a lot better thinkers than me, but it's about the crisis that we are in and unfolding as we speak. It's a good movie. I think it's something to settle people down that are really understanding what's happening, because this is a cyclical process. Again, we go through these cycles in economics, and the end of the age of empire has happened again and again and again. We are at the end of the age of the American empire.
So if the collapse happens at midnight, how close to midnight are we?
We're 2 minutes to midnight.
Well, David, thank you very much for coming on the John Ark Show. You are always welcome back on the show, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you once again for watching. I want to tell you that we're going to have more great celebrity interviews coming up. So we encourage you to subscribe to our channel for free and click on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we post a new story. Lastly, please post a link to our show on your social media to help spread the word. Thank you, and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.